The topic of this month's documentary was chosen thanks to the participation of 443 users in last month's poll. If you wish to participate in the poll for next month's documentary, then be sure to stick around until the end of the video. Now, onto our scheduled program. The year is 2017, a long time in the ancient past for some, and what only felt like yesterday for others. In the PVZ shooter scene, however, many would consider it to be at its prime time, with videos on the matter performing significantly well and gaining mass attention across the globe, with many of them reaching hundreds of thousands of views and providing the creators of these videos a strong deal of support. From Zero to Bob Box, to Wolfie Plays, to Exploding Apple, just to name a few, have become well known within the PVZ shooter community. For these creators have managed to thrive and achieve success from a franchise that has granted them a foundation worth of many years of growth. But years down the line, that very same foundation would eventually start to crack. Views and attention spans would begin to dwindle and fall. Nothing being heard or mentioned for the future of the shooter franchises. And it has now escalated to the point where either some of the oldest creators have almost abandoned the franchise entirely, or for those who have chosen to stay, only to gain a mere fraction of what they used to in years past. Tonight, we shall explore why this has happened, how the lack of interest began, what led the franchise to its lowest point in years, and why many of its former creators no longer make content based around the franchise. As with any topic that currently is at the lowest it has ever been, we must first look back at a time when the topic at hand was starting to grow immensely. Since most of the PVZ shooter YouTubers grew their channels on Garden Warfare 2, we shall be using the game as our baseline reference for future comparisons. Now obviously, some channels have been around long before Garden Warfare 2's existence, with examples being 0x Fusions and Wolfie Plays. Exploding Apple also technically makes an appearance here, though this was because he was working on the now exploding film channel, which formerly was known as J Sullivan 1998, as the Exploding Apple channel did not exist until the 10th of September 2015, being around for many years before Garden Warfare 2's release on the 23rd of February 2016. Before then, Zero focused a lot on Minecraft and the original Garden Warfare, whilst Wolfie focused his content on funny montages and Happy Wars, and Exploding Apple, before he rebranded himself as such, made Angry Bird plush videos. Each of these creators were much smaller back in the day, with their channels only having between a few hundred and a few thousand subscribers each, though how much they had is not known, due to the Wayback Machine unfortunately not having data for that far back. Regardless, however, it can very easily be noticed that thanks to the release of the game, each of their channels gained a substantial amount of support, with fans coming in at a rapid pace and making them well known within the community. It would be mere months later when Bob Box would join the scene. Since he joined YouTube on the 17th of March 2012, Bob Box did not start uploading videos until July 2016, unless there were videos that existed before then. This is all the information that I know. Regardless, the four had began to make their mark on the platform, each of them growing immensely from the game and offering content for users to enjoy for many years down the line. The founding fathers of the shooters had made their mark in history, with them all barely a year into making content for the franchise when they were at its peak. With 2017 being seen as the peak of the shooters in the YouTube scene, let us dissect and analyze each of the four most well-known content creators within the genre at that time, starting with what many would consider to be the community representative, 0x Fusions. Analyzing his content, Zero's content reflects on various different kinds of videos, from either analysis to gameplay to challenges to various news updates on either future content updates or future games that may be on their way. Zero offers his audience a wide variety of content for viewers to scrutinize, and in the way it is presented allows them to educate or inform viewers on the topic of his desired choice. Following up next, we have Wolfie Plays. Wolfie's videos seem to be a lot more on the entertainment side of the spectrum, with his videos being noticeably shorter in length but edited with jump cuts and sound effects, presumably for comedic effect. Whilst he also does updates much like Zero, he tends to almost never make them the spotlight of the video, rather as either a small discussion at the beginning or end of his videos, letting the more entertainment side of the spectrum being the main focus of his content. Next in line is Exploding Apple. Jack's content does offer some noticeable similarities to Wolfie in that his content consists of shorter videos with various edits sprinkled throughout. We can also see that he very frequently played with various people, which could be considered as unofficial dual commentary in this case. Jack also has various live streams throughout his content lineup that are still available to view to this very day, with some of them only being mere days apart. Jack's videos seem to offer entertainment for both himself, his audience, as well as the people he is playing with. And lastly, Bob Box. Bob Box's content in 2017 consists mainly of glitch videos where he demonstrates various glitches within the game, documenting them as such. Many of the glitches that he covers range from escaping the map's intended boundaries to trigger multiple in-game events at once, to even showcasing how to earn large sums of in-game currency, though all of the glitches covered seem to be exclusive to either the backyard or offer very little advantages. He also ran a minigame series later on in the year, making up game modes from various other franchises in a PVZ-like spin on them. The reason why I have explained these comes down to a very simple premise. On YouTube or any social media platform like Twitch, in order to become successful, or to even grow a following for that matter, you have to first develop a specific niche, offering content to a specific kind of audience, and giving that audience a reason to subscribe to your channel in the first place. Now, taking another look at each of the four previously mentioned creators, each of them have a specific niche. Wolfie offers entertainment, Jack offers dual commentary and comedic skits, Bob offers mini games and glitches, and Zero, whilst he doesn't offer anything specific, offers all around content around the franchise. These details will be important for later when we come to discuss the downfall of both the franchise and their channels. As the years passed, content for Garden Warfare 2 remained sparse and barren up until late 2018 to beginning 2019, when the game would begin to receive content once again, which kept the fuel lit for the channels that thrived off the franchise. This continued all the way up until September later that year, when PopCap would reveal their latest title, Battle for Neighborville. Now obviously, the release of a new game in a franchise means a huge surge of new potential content for creators to make and free opportunities for their channels to grow. With this release, next to all of the Garden Warfare 2 creators began to flock over to the new game with higher hopes and wanting to expand their audience and to grow their channel. However, if only they knew that this game would be the start of the franchise's far fall from grace. BFN was not blessed with great stability, and with it being released in a very clear and finished state, people began to express their distaste for the game and pointed out its various bugs and glitches that seemed to not be fixed with each passing update. This situation ended up becoming that of a double-edged sword, with the support for Garden Warfare 2 being cut in January 2020. This forced content creators in making either one of two choices. They could stick to BFN despite its flaws and be granted new content in the form of updates, or they could go back to Garden Warfare 2, a game that they enjoy but is no longer being supported at all. This line of backlash would even make its way through each of the content creators, who after only a few short months, many would leave the game, going back to Garden Warfare 2 despite its discontinued state, with many of them expressing their rather poor experience with the game.
We're now at a point where it feels like the game's getting worse with every update. Every time they make an update to fix something, they manage to break more things in the process.
I don't want to be that guy, but I think a lot of the hate kind of brought them down. I would say a lot of the hate. But over the months of the hate, they probably realized they also weren't making that much money off of the game, so that's why
We have given constructive criticism to Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville as a community, and the developers would refuse to listen and to change details about it.
Following this tragic downward spiral, the support for BFN would only be cut mere months later, having not even managing a single year since its official release. With the last of the shooters now burned out and the support severed, the creators were now stranded on a sinking ship with no sign of rescue in sight. A sink or swim scenario that they were forced into against their will. Yet this was not the only problem that would come to haunt their channels. With no more content coming in for any of the shooters, the creators were stranded as to what to do. How much content could they make on the game before their audience had enough and became bored with their content? Because of the lack of updates that were coming in for the games, many of the creators began to improvise on the situation. Zero began doing challenge videos and making content on other games. Wolfie began to move his sole focus away from PVZ towards Pokemon. Jack began making videos on various other games as well as adding more comedic skits, and Bob Box for the most part stood with the franchise, continuing to make videos on it. In the process of experimenting with their content, however, would be where their channels would lose most of their steam and come to a screeching halt. This is also around the time that a rather disheartening turn of events would take place that would ultimately lead to two of the founding fathers of the shooters suffering major losses in terms of both viewership and support. I shall label this event in history as the content identity crisis. As previously mentioned, in order for you to have a chance to make a stand within online media, you have to make content around a specific interest that either very few content creators are making, or the interest in question is high in demand. All of these creators had their perks in the past, with Wolfie having edits and comedy, Jack having comedic skits and dual commentary, Bob having glitches, and Zero being all around. Out of all of these creators, only one of them have really stuck to their lane. That creator being Wolfie Plays. Whilst he does not get as much viewership as he did in the past because he has kept his style of content relatively the same with minimal changes, his audience has kept with him throughout this entire time, and from the looks of his channel, they plan on staying with him. This is not to say that the other creators have not made the effort, since each of the others have made attempts at doing what they used to in years past. However, one thing I have noticed, particularly between Jack, Wolfie, and Bob Box, is a noticeable overlap in content. Now, nothing is wrong with doing the same content as someone more popular than you, especially if the content in question gathers a lot of viewership and support. The problem comes into question with the retention span of their respective audiences. Obviously, a lot more people are going to the more popular channel in question, but once they've finished watching their video is when the biggest problem arises for the smaller YouTubers such as Jack and Bob. For you see, humans have a limited retention span. The problem isn't with the three of them making videos reacting to clips. The problem lies within the video itself, in the fact that outside of the thumbnail, creator, and maybe editing style, the format of the videos are exactly the same. All of them first watch a clip and give it a reaction based on the clip's content. Then once the clip has concluded, they will give it a rating based on a set system. If the clip reaches the highest rating possible, then they are inducted into a special group. Again, nothing is wrong with doing the same thing others are doing, but when it gets to the point where there is little to no variation in between them, it's like making people choose between three choices that are exactly the same with bare minimal differences. This will also cause people to become uninterested in that sort of topic sooner and stop watching future uploads related to it, which will result in fewer views overall, and as a result, the channel slowly begins to decline in support, ultimately reaching a point where they may have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, yet the view count on their videos barely reach a couple hundred or even 1,000 at best. It's a tragic and rather disheartening story, especially since at the end of the day, the four of them seem to have not only an incredible passion for their dream, but they genuinely seem to be rather talented in both their editing and content capabilities. And even though their channels are at the absolute lowest they have ever been, they continue to push forward no matter the grave circumstances that may get in their way. Whilst tonight has shown that each of the four most well-known YouTubers within the shooter community have either continued to support the franchise or left it on the back burner for other franchises, one thing is for certain, none of them seem to have given up hope in making content and continue to upload to this day. If you wish to participate in the poll for the next documentary, be sure to check out the pinned comment, for a new poll has been started for the topic for January's documentary, as due to next month consisting of the holidays, I will not have the adequate time available, so the documentary shall be pushed to the end of January. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more content like this in the future, and good night.